This afternoon is a very special afternoon. The smiling, bubbly young lady you see next to me is my sister from another mother. I call her my little sister, Samantha Sheoprashad. Samantha, first of all, thank you for taking the time to come and sit with me this afternoon. I have been on a hiatus for a little bit, and I was saying to you just now, you're the only person that could have gotten me to break this little hiatus that I'm on. But it's for a good purpose, a good reason. When I found out that you were representing the young people of Guyana at the Commonwealth Youth Forum, I was ecstatic. And then when I learned that you'd like to have a conversation surrounding that, I was even more ecstatic. But we're going to talk about not just the forum, we're going to talk about Samantha, we're going to talk about the global, what is it? The
Global Citizen.
The Global Citizen. And we're going to have a wonderful conversation. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Collins. And thank you very much for actually responding to me at the same time that I've actually contacted you. And a good afternoon to all you wonderful viewers out there, especially the Guyanese people, more so the young people of Guyana.
Samantha, the Commonwealth Youth Forum, right, CYF, is organized as part of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, CHOGM. It aims to promote cross-cultural connections and to achieve consensus among youth leaders on the policies required to address the challenges and opportunities facing young people. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is.
When you hear about CYF, what comes to mind?
Common power, common force, inclusion, sustainability towards a fairer future, towards a common future.
Samantha, what is one thing you're eager to tell us about that particular forum this afternoon? Just one thing. We'll talk about a lot, but what is one thing that is foremost in your mind?
The growing power of young people across the Commonwealth. And their ability to stand for democracy, transparency, accountability.
Samantha, let me go back a little. Let's get to find out who this Samantha is. Right? When those close to you describe you, what is usually accurate about their description?
Very energetic, hustler type, pushy, committed, and loyal.
Is your mic on? Did you remember to put it on?
No.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's go back. So they said you're energetic, you're pushy, and what else?
Loyal.
What about brilliant?
Well, that comes with it, but we are looking for a more simpler definition.
When your mom describes you, or let me ask it this way, if your mom was to be describing you to someone and you just happen, just eavesdrop the conversation, what do you think she'll be telling them?
Mostly my mother will tell people that I'm a good child and I'm a superwoman.
I like that, a superwoman. How does one get to the UK to represent young people of any country? But since we're talking about you, this Guyanese young woman, how does one get selected for such a prestigious task?
I think that prestigious task comes with a lot of responsibility and responsibility to serve the young people, and that is something that I've been doing for the past 17 years for my country. I started at the age of 11 and I continue all the way to now, serving young people in various areas and listening to their needs, their challenges, and so forth.
When did you first start this journey?
I started at the age of 11. That was like probably somewhere around 2002.
Wow. And how did you get introduced to this?
Well, I was basically out of school with nothing to do, finished writing common entrance, and it was a camp at my school. And I went to the camp, and when I went to the camp, there was so many activities that was going on, and they discovered that, I may be the one who could represent Guyana, and could represent Region 4, because they had a summer camp, national summer camp. So everything Samantha was in: dancing, singing, public speaking, voicing my concerns on various topics. At that time, AIDS awareness was quite rampant, and for an 11-year-old to speak vibrantly about those topics from a very Indo-dominated community was not a rare thing. And when we had to talk about things like sex and using a condom, those are things that young children would not know. But my father took the opportunity of actually educating me at a young age, some of the things that I can do as a young woman to basically protect myself, and what boys can do and how they can approach you. And so he fed me with that knowledge to basically protect myself, and that was one of the stellar moments for me in the camp. And the camp coordinator at that time was Madison Scipio and Jillian Frank, and they basically recognized the kind of talent that I had there, and they approached my parents to send me to the camp. And my mother and father basically refused them at the first instant, and they came straight to my home. And they actually told my father and my mother and assured them that, what, we're going to take care of her every step of the way once she go to the camp. Nothing will happen to her. Because, parents are so, protective, their young child going out there. And they made that promise to my parents, and they upkeep that promise. And they told my parents, they said, this girl have numerous potential, and we don't think you should stop it now.
I asked you what would mom say. And Samantha, I think let me see if I can get this mic a little closer to you.
Yeah.
Because you have so much wonderful thing to say, and I want people to hear you well. I asked about mom, what mom will tell people. Tell us a little bit about dad. How would he describe you?
You're talking about my father?
Yes.
Oh, my father, he sells me as a great person. My father would tell everybody but his daughter going to meet the queen. But more importantly, my father would describe me as a person with integrity, as a good child, a child that never gives him problem. He observed my commitment, the struggle that I go through throughout my life, and the ability to overcome. So he would most likely tell them, she's a hustler. And if people come around thinking that they will get their way with me, my father could put his block on, could put his head on the block for me.
You mentioned meeting the queen.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
That was a phenomenal experience, to me meeting the queen and having the ability to be listened, to be heard. At that moment, I felt heard. I felt listened to. I felt that someone gave me the moment to express my true potential. And from there on, I actually saw potential. I saw a numerous growth within my personality.
You going back to the Commonwealth
Yeah.
Youth Forum.
Yeah.
You represent the young people of Guyana.
Yes, I did.
Was this your first time?
This was my first time at the Commonwealth level, but I did on many more occasions.
What was this like for you? Okay, let me frame the question this way. You've gone through a lot. You started from the age of 11. Yeah. I for one, when I met you, I was really taken in by how committed and how passionate you are and how very eloquent you are. And, so every time we talk, and which is not very frequently, but every time we do, you're always rushing out of Guyana, going somewhere to represent Guyana. Yeah. And, you've traveled a lot, Trinidad and all these places. This particular forum, the CYF, what do you think this said to you about you?
This particular forum is basically a challenge for me and for the rest of the Commonwealth to come together to save our planet and to sustain humanity throughout the Commonwealth.
Let's open up that statement a little bit. To save humanity,
save the rest of the planet.
Yeah.
Um, which of those goals resonate the most with you?
Humanity.
Why?
Because if we are to exist or we are to continue as a human race on this planet here, we need to take careful consideration into things like the blue economy, the green economy, climate change, unemployment, and social issues which are plaguing our society deeply today.
Let's go into Guyana.
Yes.
Young people. I personally, and I'm sure there are many others like me, who believe that our nation is nothing without its young people. I mean, God, a large percentage of the population are young people. What role do you see yourself playing in the development of young people, in their transformation? How do you see yourself in that particular role?
Well, basically, I see myself in that role as empowering young people and giving them and exposing them to the necessary tools that I was exposed to basically develop our country and to give themselves some sort of empowerment. You know, one can empower our community, but the greatest empowerment is self-empowerment. If we don't empower ourselves, then, you know, what kind of journey or what kind of development can we make for our community? So self-development is very, very important. That is why most of my programs or most of my projects is actually geared on empowering young people.
What keeps you up at night when it comes to empowering young people?
The fact that we are not exposed, the fact that personally, I have struggled and I know what it means to struggle in a country like Guyana. That is what keeps me up, because I know the next generation to come or the next two, three generations to come, I don't want them to feel the kind of struggle that I am feeling or I have felt as a young Guyanese.
You've traveled, you've met young people like yourself from other countries.
Yeah.
Is there a particular struggle or challenge that is unique to Guyana, or is this a global thing? Or if you had to identify one particular thing, and I know this might be an unfair question, but Samantha, you're brilliant. If there's one particular thing you feel that is unique to Guyana, what would that be?
When it comes to struggle?
When it comes to challenges young people face.
The challenges that a lot of young people face in Guyana is access. Access to opportunity, access to the right opportunity, and the infrastructure sometimes is not there. I see there a lot of development that is currently taking place on the ground when it comes to IT and so forth. That is actually going to bring a lot of young people together and a lot of people creating jobs and stuff. But there is still more we have to do when it comes to the people itself. So the thing is, with young people in Guyana, I think the problem is access. While they might have the opportunity there, they may not have the access.
I want to go back into your timeline a little bit. You said you started this whole journey with young people and empowering young people at the age of 11. Let's go back a little earlier than that. Take us to the 8-year-old Samantha. What was she like?
The 8-year-old Samantha was someone who was struggling in class, was struggling to read, struggling to see on the board. I was basically struggling with our education system because all they taught us to do was to pass an exam. And, you know, my type of learning was more visual than of cramming. And I was basically struggling to find myself there in the classroom. And when I found myself, I went all the way up to about 70-80% in the school examination.
When you found yourself?
When I found myself.
When was that?
I was like about 9, 10.
How do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember when I found myself, I started remembering stuff. I started to basically learn how I learn, and that was through visuals, and that was through drawings, and that was through constant practicing.
Okay, hold a second.
Yes.
For those young people that are listening into this, or will listen later, that might be experiencing the same kind of struggles that you experienced. Was this accidental, how you discovered? Was there a teacher who recognized that, you learn better from visuals? How did this whole thing happen? And why do you think it is, why do you think it worked for you?
Okay, so when I was experimenting at the age of 8, between the age of 8 to 9,
Mm-hmm.
I kept experimenting with every single thing to see what was working for me. I kept experimenting with practice. I kept experimenting with writing to remember. I kept experimenting with the visual. I kept experimenting with diagrams. I look at point formats just to remember the kind of things they were teaching in school.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found was that the visual aspect of it resonated with me more. And then is when my grades and everything started to improve. And I think my brain was actually developing at the same time. So with all of that in place, I found that, Samantha was at third place in the class, and Samantha was basically helping other students in the class who was not able to find themselves at that time. So, if I knew a concept or I knew a topic, I had a flock around me. Whereas the person who was sitting in the first and the second place felt threatened that, someone else shouldn't know. And I just felt happy sharing, like if I knew something, oh my God, come. I'm going to help you guys. We're going to get there together, And that is something that helped me to keep the relationship with people until today, because they remember Samantha helped them.
Samantha, it is said that relationship is one of the most powerful or valuable currency one can have. I personally know that. What do you say to young people that are listening today about relationships?
Our relationship is basically the collaboration currency towards building any powerful and strong community.
Yes.
Are you laughing? Yeah, it is the currency.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So let's fast forward. 18 years old.
18 years old.
Who did she become?
18 years old, I was just lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just trying to find myself. I was depressed. I was in a notion of wanting to go to university and, not having a job and not having access to opportunities. And I was basically fighting my way to go to university. I really wanted to go to university, and, the kind of opportunity was not there. I was going from interview to interview to see if I could have had a part-time job. I basically sat in a lot of interviews as an 18-year-old with a diploma in project management, I was told things that, you're too young, but you have a lot of qualification on your name. You're too young for the job. We need people with experience. And that is something young people face in Guyana.
Mm-hmm.
We are being told no. We are being told, oh, because you don't have experience, you can't get access to this job. Oh, because you don't have you're telling an 18-year-old they can't access a loan to start a business because they don't have finance. Tell me, where are you? 18-year-old would find money just right after school. How logical is that? How do you expect that young Guyanese to grow if they are told things like that? And that was very disheartening for me at that age.
What if their response to you is risk? What would you say then?
Risk?
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about young people's risk, or you're talking about
risk to the institution? I'm trying to get you to make a case for young people. I pretty much have my own answer, but they come back at you and they said, well, Samantha, look, I hear you. You have all these qualifications. Young people have all this knowledge and so on. But it's a risk. you know, it's a risk investing in you. A risk investing in young people, you know, you might still be thinking about partying and thinking about doing all these sorts of stuff. And they can make a very good case for not letting you into the door, through the doors, or giving you a chance. What would you say?
Okay, so if you older people are saying it as a risk investing in young people, right? That is why our economy is the way it is.
Say it again.
Right? If you guys see it as a risk investing in our young people at 18, then that is the reason why the way our economy is, you know. And the thing is that if you invest in young people, you have nothing to lose. You don't have to worry about us partying. Partying and all those things doesn't equate to our competency and the drive and the kind of commitment we have to our country. Those things don't really equate. If a financial institution is sustainable enough, they will invest in the young people.
Samantha, thanks for that answer, by the way. So you find yourself in the UK,
yeah,
right?
Yes.
At this forum.
Yes.
You're sitting at this table among other brilliant young thought leaders from various countries and so on. What is going through your mind as that plaque is in front of you with the word Guyana and your flag is in front of you? What is going through your mind?
Service to the young people at every level.
Service. And you've met some very prominent people there, heads of state and so on. Who made would you say, the biggest impact on you, and why?
I wouldn't equate that to say who made the biggest impact, because there were tons of people who were making really huge impact, and each one have its unique place in my mind when it comes to development. People like Bill Gates, Prince Harry, you know, there were tons of billionaires who were sitting at a table, and I was fortunate to be in that meeting, basically to look at the next generation impact for entrepreneurs. So these were basically billionaires sitting at the table trying to find a way how to spend their money, and they were basically asking us young people, what do we need from them and how do we need it from them?
Let's expand on that a little. Walk us through. You're sitting there, you're among these amazing minds and, you know, millionaires and billionaires asking you for advice on how they can spend their money, how they can make more of an impact in the development, you know, in global development. What is going through your mind? What are you thinking about then at that time?
At that time, I was basically thinking, you know, all of the ideas that I would have gotten, you know, put aside, put it back of my head for years. How is it that I could articulate it into something succinct to basically express it to them? And as the question come, everything just started flowing. You know, I hadn't the opportunity to think what is it, you know, I was gonna say and how I was gonna say. It just flowed.
You were in the flow.
Yeah.
What exactly, for those of us who don't know, what was each of you required to do at this forum?
Well, basically, we were required to tell them exactly what we think could bring young entrepreneurs together. How is it we could build an ecosystem that could serve the entire of the Commonwealth? And to eradicate unemployment, young people being undervalued. Yeah.
Tell us about your journey to the UK. What was that like? And I'm asking you this question because I'm asking you this question because I know how challenging it is to have access in Guyana. I presume it's like that in most developing nations, but we are Guyanese. This is a Guyana context. What was it like? Was it nerve-wracking? I don't want to put words into your mouth, but what was this like from the time you got tapped to represent the young people of Guyana, this Commonwealth Youth Forum, to when you actually got your ticket and left? What was that process like
It
for
was
you?
very challenging, frustrating.
Why?
I've never really felt some of the things that I felt during the journey prior to representing Guyana at the UK. I think things weren't being said to us. Things were a bit confusing as well, and until I spoke to Minister Norton, things started to happen. Yeah.
Okay, I want to push this mic a little. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you like angle it up just a
Like
little?
this?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Samantha. Yes. So you said things weren't being told to you.
Yeah. We had to figure certain things out ourselves. We had to go get our visa. We had to pay for it. There were a couple more other things that
You said we. Who else were?
The other representative was Kobe Smith. Yeah. So basically, him and I were working as a team as well to represent Guyana. So we had to figure out from point A to point B how we are getting there. But there are people behind us working to figure out that way in getting there as well.
So when a youth leader gets a request like this to represent the country, what is the process? What are you supposed to do? I heard you mention Minister Norton. His portfolio is youth, sports and culture. What happens next? What is your next step?
Honestly, I can't tell you about that.
You don't know?
I don't even know.
Wow.
Right. But usually it's when you're being requested as a national delegate, from what I understand, is that the government takes care of everything. But that wasn't so.
That was not so. So
but I have to commend them because they did take care of our tickets to get there.
Okay, so eventually it happened.
Yeah, that was one of the important factor, and Minister Norton was and the office they were keeping in connection with us while we were there.
Could it be that they don't have a structure in place because something like this never really happened before? They don't know what to do?
I think they're quite new to it.
Oh, they're new to it.
Yeah,
okay.
new to
So if you had the audience of Minister Norton and President Granger to advise them perhaps on how we can make this process less strenuous, less challenging for other delegates, what are a few things you would suggest to them?
Take care of your young people.
Take care of
your young people.
Your young people. Okay.
I would expect them to have that level of competency and that level of knowledge, to take care of us.
Okay. But I'm going to ask you this question, not for you to answer here, but just to say that if they were to ask you about systems that they could put in place to make it easier, are you willing to suggest?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Samantha, so how long was the forum?
It was from the 16th to the 18th, but we had activities starting from the 13th.
From the 13th? Any favorites?
I wasn't there until the 15th.
I understand you met among the important people you met, including Prince Charles and Prince Harry and Bill Gates and Prime Minister Trudeau and Theresa May and so on. You met our own President and First Lady.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Oh, it was amazing. That Bill Gates, being a computer science student, every computer science student wants to meet Bill Gates. So being in his presence and in his company really put me in a position to sort of magnify the type of impact that I wanted to create, seeing the kind of work that he has been doing in the community level. I spoke to Justin Trudeau and I had a really nice handshake, and I even invited him to visit our country, our beautiful country, Guyana. Yeah, and I met our own president, President Granger, and his wife.
Sandra Granger, and they were awesome. We had a really nice conversation about our country and a way forward. And our president was actually wondering, why we didn't meet him prior the visit here. So I couldn't answer that question.
Whenever you meet him.
Yeah. So I told him, we can still meet. When we get back to Guyana, we'd organize a meeting and we'll go and meet him. And even First Lady invited us over to her office as well.
Let's take a quick break.